What karma is a bitch incident did you witness firsthand? Ooh, I have a good one. I was getting into my car in the post office parking lot, and I Jewist touched the car to my right with my door. The two young men sitting inside glared at me. I took a look at their door, and no visible dent or scratch appeared. The guys pull out, blocking me in, and threw an orange in my car. An orange? You think? Yes, an orange. I cannot make that shit up. He speeds off toward the road, giving me the finger along the way. Shortly after, I heard a loud screeching brake sound and a boom. I drove over to it, and sure enough, the orange thrower hit another car, leaving pretty decent damage on both vehicles. I make my way to the road slowly, pointing and laughing as I pass the scene. I'm giving the middle finger one last time before going about my merry business. Edit, spelling, and formatting. I like imagining the thought process behind them throwing an orange at you. Jeff, yo, Blake, fuck this guy for almost damaging our car. What are we gonna do? Blake, we could throw some shit at his car, Jeff. Well, let's see, dude, there's nothing really in here, Blake. How about this orange I found, Jeff? Blake, fine, go for it. Blake just gets way too into it and hurls the orange at you, flipping you the bird, Blake. I feel so alive right now. My 4-year-old daughter was wearing a princess costume randomly, and also was wearing socks. She climbed onto the coffee table while I'm telling her not to, warning her that she might fall. I hear, I'm not gonna fall to BAM. WAH. One of the many times I've been able to console her with a nice heartfelt, told you so. I was riding my bike in a protected bike lane with the right of way through an intersection. A guy in a Jeep blew through the red light, waving his middle finger at me and yelling to get off the road. I damn near hit him and laid the bike down. There was a sheriff at the top of the hill. He came screaming down, told me to follow him. The guy in the Jeep was arrested for reckless endangerment. Some faith in cops restored. Battle buddy in Iraq didn't want to wake up for out roving guard shift on time. He needs waking up like 3 times and then gives me shit about him being late. He lights a cigarette outside, and I tell him to put it out since it's not a good idea to tell people where we're at. Aliston, shut the fuck up. It's 3 in the morning, no one's gonna do shit, Tony. He never got the last tea in tonight out because the mortar started hitting. It's literally the quickest I've ever seen someone proved right. In high school, a buddy and I found an old shoe in my gym's locker room. I looked around, made sure no one was looking, and threw it a few aisles over. I heard a kid yell, WTF? Someone threw a shoe at my head. We laughed and walked towards the exit, about 50 feet away from where I originally threw the shoe. As we get to the door, I get hit on the head by the same shoe. Instant karma. I wasn't even mad, lol. I went to Hawaii with my mom and stepfather for vacation. I was 12, and we signed up for surfing lessons. The car ride there, my stepfather kept saying, now parole model, I just want to warn you of something. You might not be able to do this. You're a girl, so your center of gravity is higher. I'm a boy, so my center of gravity is lower. Don't be too upset when I'm standing on the board longer than you. It's just science, okay? I'll be better, but it's okay because it's not your fault. Screw him. I managed to ride a few low waves all the way to shore while he couldn't even get on his feet. I mean, I was nothing fancy on those small waves because I had never done it before, but it was way better than him going to stand than instantly falling every single time. He wouldn't talk to me on the car ride back whenever I tried to bring up what he said earlier. What a moron. I mean, unless the guy was practically a midget, there's no way his CG was lower than the CG of a 12-year-old girl. Just happened yesterday. My company has a cafeteria in the building, and I'm in line at the grill. This guy just blatantly cuts in front of about 5 people and places his order, a turkey bacon Swiss melt. I was next in line and decide since I'm at work to say nothing and just let it go. Another cafeteria employee comes over to help the guy working the grill and takes my order, which is also a turkey bacon Swiss melt. So the initial grill cook sees the second guy start making the melt and takes the next person's order and the next until everyone in line has placed their order. The guy who cut is now waiting for his melt too, which the initial grill cook never started making because he saw the second guy making one. So I and everyone behind me all get our food before the guy who cut, who ends up waiting an additional 5 to 10 minutes. When my middle nephew was about 6, he had a bad impulse control problem. Once when I was visiting, his older brother did something fairly minor that pissed him off, so he cocked back his arm and threw a punch at his brother as hard as he could and slammed his fist directly into the wooden door frame instead. TD, I got a good one. At a family dinner, my brother was close to a tray of cheeses and breads, making a mega bite with all his favorites in it. There was one type of cheese that is his absolute favorite, and he was keeping it for this finale bite. I asked him to bring me a piece of cheese with him. He quite rudely says no in a very loud, asshole way, in front of everyone. I smile and tell him, you know, I'm not even going to get pissed because karma's going to take you down. As I finish my sentence, he accidentally drops the megabyte, it splats on the floor, and the cat comes, licks one lick on his favorite cheese, and carries on. I was working as a carpenter building a house. I had a 4x8 sheet of plywood ready to nail into place. A guy came up to me with his arm wrapped with a handkerchief and bleeding. He was going to the ER. I reached behind me to knock on wood and prevent me from getting hurt on the job. The damn sheet of plywood fell on me. Never did that again. The bully girl in preschool class would run at other kids, making the nastiest face you've ever seen, then hit them over the head. She was the meanest little kid I've ever met. The shyest boy accidentally upset her. She started running at him from across the room as fast as she could. Terrified, shy boy instinctively braced himself against the table behind him and lifted his foot up to keep her back. She ran gut first at full speed into the bottom of his shoe. The impact was like a karate kick to the stomach. The shy boy had no idea that would happen and hadn't even intended to defend himself. Bully girl went crashing to the floor backwards with the wind knocked out of her, and it took about 5 seconds before she could even catch her breath enough to cry. Me, the adult of duty, took a sudden interest in the wallpaper and pretended not to have seen any of it. That girl needed to learn the hard way, and the shy boy needed to learn to stand up for himself. Experience is the best teacher. I let karma rule the day. Just got off jury duty like 2 hours ago. Listen to this woman claiming she got hurt in a car accident, wanted money for lost wages, pain, etc., to the amount of $127,000 from a 20-year-old kid. Something was clearly off, which 11 out of 12 jurors decided. We awarded her $7,350. As we left the courtroom, the tip staff guy pulled me aside. Turns out the woman could have settled with the kid and his father for $60,000 before the trial started, but didn't. Greed never pays, kids. I was sitting on top of the sofa back, and my brother thought it would be funny to push me so that I'd fall backwards onto the sofa. I did, with my legs continuing straight upward and basically kicking him in the balls. It was one of my favorite moments because it was completely guilt-free on my part and instant karma for him. Open spar at my gym. Guy comes in to unleash his fury taught by Sensei YouTube. Goes with a dude at 100%. Dude backs off and tells guy to calm down and keep it at 20%. He agrees and goes 100% again. Dude backs off and gets called a pussy by guy. An instructor offers to take his place. Guy doesn't know it's an instructor. They agree to go light. Guy comes at him 100%. Instructor warns him to practice control. They go again. Guy goes 100%. Instructor grabs him and knees him in the ribs. Guy slumps over and sits for the next hour. Guy shows up 3 months later to just watch. TLDR, mess with the bull, you get broken ribs. In college, some girl pushed my roommate or of her way on the stairs, almost knocking him down them. At the next landing, she tripped and rolled down the whole flight of stairs. My roommate and I both carefully stepped over her and continued walking as we heard her yelling at us for not even helping her up. Was out at a bar with a buddy of mine I hadn't seen in years. He sees 2 girls at the bar and goes to the bartender and has him deliver a round on us. They get the drinks and the bartender points to us. We smile and nod. Guess they didn't like what they saw. One busts up laughing, the other looks like she just smelled a fart. So they pick up their drinks and start to head for the door. Before they leave, the bouncer, who isn't going to let them leave with the glasses, steps in front of the door. They're looking at us, so they don't see him. Bang! They're wearing the drinks instead of drinking them. My friend and I start laughing our asses off, as do several other people who saw what happened. Best $10 we spent all night. Small but good. 2 crazy loud 18 or 19-year-old women pile onto the full bus I'm riding without paying their fare and ignore the driver when he calls back at them to pay. Apparently not having much of a disciplinary leg to stand on, the driver drops the issue and continues on his route when the women pretend not to hear him. They sit in priority seating amongst the olds and have a loud, laughing conversation. I shit you not, lawnmower caliber decibels. I'm pissed because of proximity alone, but I think everybody's probably pissed. Out of seemingly nowhere, a middle-aged man, obviously drunk off his ass and barely able to stand, addresses them and begins a one-sided conversation with one of the now visibly uncomfortable women. They quiet right the fuck down and politely smile and nod through their 15-minute bus journey, exchanging confused glances all the while, not knowing quite how to navigate this unexpected twist in their commute. The moment drunk guy releases them from his hypnotic spell, they silently exit at the next stop. Glorious. Pretty girl in the year above at school loved to humiliate me. The worst was her habit of putting chewing gum in my hair daily. It was mortifying. Years later, she's in a council house, working for KFC and mothering twins. The twins' father left them a week ago. Meanwhile, I'm studying at one of the UK's top universities, overachiever, part-time employment at an international marketing company, and complete gym junkie. Damn, I love my life. Was leaving the grocery store about 10 years ago. It was really rainy and very windy. I got into my car and saw a lady get into her car after leaving her grocery cart just pushed away from her car a little bit. The cart corral was just a couple space over, but she didn't want to bother. This always drives me crazy because of its laziness and selfishness. Well, she pulls out and has to stop in a minute at the end of the lane because cars are coming. A long, heavy gust of wind grabs her cart, and it rolls close to 60 feet, gaining momentum, before slamming right into the side of her car. I could see the dent it made from halfway across the lot. It was as if God grabbed the cart and rolled it in her to teach to put it up next time. I was at the mall doing some last-minute Christmas shopping and heard a commotion by one of the escalators. Some punk was berating and yelling in a girl's face, calling her all kind of names, and then screamed at the top of his lungs, "I'm glad I cheated on you with your sister and gave you herpes." He turned around to walk down the escalator, tripped and bounced down them. Everyone started laughing at him, even the poor girl who was in tears. He stood up and looked at everyone laughing, started to say something, but an older gentleman stepped out of the crowd and sucker punched him. Turns out she was with her father when the kid decided to break up. Father heard the whole thing. Was driving through a school zone when I see an Audi swerve through the traffic at well over the speed limit. Usually there are never any cops on patrol, but this day a motorcycle cop was sitting at the curb just waiting. It was gratifying to watch the cop's lights come on and him slide up behind that speeder. A bunch of my friends were camping over a long weekend. The way into the campsite was a narrow dirt road that was barely wide enough for 2 cars. You usually either stop to give way or pass by slowly. Well, a car came roaring along, and on passing clipped the side of my friend's car, taking his side mirror off. They continued on without a care in the world. The next morning we see a car being towed into the camp that had clearly T-boned a tree from the way the front was bent in half. Guess whose car it was? Karma served. I was about 13 years old on a roller coaster at Six Flags. I thought it would be funny if I spit in the air, knowing it may hit someone sitting a few rows back. Well, it did. It hit the guy sitting right behind me. I heard him shout, "Oh, what the fuck?" and then hear the sound of him hocking up a large loogie. He leaned forward and spit this monstrous amount of spit right on the back of my neck. Needless to say, I never did that again. One time I was driving on the highway, and I passed an unmarked cop car. About maybe 10 minutes later, a car shoots past me, going at least 30 to 50 kilometers per hour faster than me. I started to do a mental countdown: 5, 4, 3, 2. The unmarked cop car shoots past me, going so fast that CB antenna was almost touching the pavement. I had fun driving by that ticket scene. Also, one time I was driving home late at night with a friend. An asshole came behind us, honking and flashing his high beams to get us to move. So we move over, and he speeds off, giving up the bird. A few kilometers later, we drive past him as he is getting a ticket. My friend and I waved. Was in the car with a couple friends once going down the highway. Next to us is a convertible full of teenage girls, all texting on their cell phones, including the driver. My buddy is driving past them, and I shout, "Get off your phone. You're driving." They all put their phones down to yell at me to shut the fuck up, then sped off. What they didn't notice was that we were approaching an intersection. My buddy slows the car down, but the convertible keeps going, right into the back of the car in front of them. All 3 of us are cracking up at the red light watching the driver of the convertible freak out. TLDR, getting off your phone gets you in car wrecks. This happened a couple weeks ago, but a group of us were in my college dorm, double room, so it was spacious, and 2 of us were hungry. My roommate and I had a huge stash of instant noodles, and we're pretty used to making them on late nights with our kettle when we had to study. So fast forward 5 minutes. We're waiting for our instant noodles to finish cooking, and my roommate trips over his bowl and knocks his noodles all over our carpeted college dorm floor. All of us laughed at him, but I was definitely the one cracking up the most. As I roared in laughter, my headphone cord plugged into my laptop dragged and caught my bowl of noodles. I sat there in sadness as I saw my instant karma pay off. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.